The blast came through the east wall of the subcorridor at 14:03 station time. I know the exact minute because I had just logged a conduit relay repair in the maintenance terminal. Waypost Verith, Diplomatic Annex, Level 4. And the timestamp was still glowing on my handheld when the floor bucked and the lights went the color of old blood before dying. I am a contractor. I fix broken things in the walls of places where important people meet. I had been on Waypost Verith for 11 days, and I do not believe, in all 11 of those days, that any Ovek noble had looked directly at me. I was the human who worked behind the ornamental paneling. I was the man with the half-mask and the wrapped jaw. I was, at most, an inconvenience when I needed to open a hatch in a corridor. Someone important was walking through. When the ceiling of the annex came down, I was 20 meters from the main receiving chamber. I know what a structural collapse sounds like. I have heard them before. In worse places, here's circumstances that left their permanent record on my face. I pulled my kit bag, got low, and moved toward the sound, not away from it. I did not think about it. I simply moved, because moving toward the sound of people being hurt is what my body does. 11 years of field medicine does not unlearn itself, just because I am supposed to be fixing conduit relays. The main chamber was a ruin. One of the great decorative columns had sheared at its base and come down across the center of the room, and pinned beneath it, from the knee down, Queen Thessavari of the Ovek Dominion. I had seen her at a distance, tall even by Ovek standards, ash-blue skin, gold amber eyes, dark hair threaded with silver. She wore a ceremonial collar of hammered gold and a formal outer robe the color of deep water, and at that moment both were covered in dust. And she was pressing her hand flat against the floor, breathing through her teeth, trying to shift the column and failing. There was no one else in the chamber. The honor guards had fled. The advisors had fled. Whatever had caused the explosion, a shaped charge, I suspected, planted by a rival faction, who did not want this convocation to succeed, had cleared the room with surgical precision. The far doors were jammed in their frames. The only other exit was the maintenance hatch I had come through. I crossed the chamber at a run. There is an Ovek protocol. I had learned it in contractor orientation that forbids a civilian non-Ovek from initiating physical contact with a royal without explicit permission. I was aware of this as I crossed the chamber. I noted it and set it aside, because her leg was under several 100 kilograms of marble column, and she had been alone in that wreckage for 3 or 4 minutes. Protocol is a thing that exists in a world where the ceiling has not come down. I knelt beside her. I did not touch her yet. "Your Majesty," I said. "I'm Rael Connor. Contractor Level 4 Maintenance. I have a field kit and training. I need to assess your leg before I do anything else. Tell me if you want me to stop." She turned her head and looked at me. I know what people see when they look at me for the first time. The half-mask covers my nose and most of my left cheek. The wrappings go from the jaw down into my collar. A fire years ago, a refugee camp, a burning prefab structure. 4 people pulled out before the roof came down on me. I am not a frightening sight, I am told, but I am an unusual one. In 11 days on Waypost Verith, not one Ovek had held my gaze for more than a half-second before looking away. Queen Thessavari looked at me for a full 5 seconds. Her gold amber eyes were steady, pain in them invisible, and they did not slide away. "Assess it," she said. The column had come down across the shin, bad for the crush, better for the joint. I had bandaging, a collapsible splint, a small amount of analgesic compound, and my hands. I told her all of this. She asked one precise question about the analgesic, and I answered honestly, including what I didn't know. She said, "Don't use it to feel the leg." I respected that and worked without it. I could not lift the column. I tried twice and could not hold it long enough. What I could do was brace against further rolling, pack the space around her leg to reduce compression, and stabilize the injury, so that when rescue teams reached us, she would not bleed out in the transfer. I did those things and kept talking while I worked. Because people alone in the dark with serious injuries need a voice, and mine, so I have been told, is low and does not contribute to panic. She talked back. I had not expected that. She asked about my training. 8 years field medic with a humanitarian contractor, 3 years independent. She asked why I no longer did it full-time. I said, the work had cost me some things, and I had needed something quieter for a while. She was quiet, and then she said, The wrappings. Yes, I said. Injured in the course of your work, a fire. Yes, and you are here in my annex repairing conduit. Someone has to. In the glow of the chem sticks I had rigged from my kit, her skin was the color of deep water in shade, and she was watching my hands with an expression that was not pity. It was closer to the look I give a damaged system when I'm trying to understand what it has survived. In the second hour she said quietly, "You broke several protocols the moment you knelt beside me." "I know the rules," I said. "And you know which ones matter more." She extended her hand, not toward me, simply outward, palm upward, resting on the floor beside her. Not a command, an offer. I understood the difference. I set my hand over hers, her fingers closed around mine, and she breathed out slowly, and neither of us anything for a while. When I had said, somewhere in that second hour, "I won't leave you," she had asked calmly about the structural risk, and I had answered as a medic would, practically stating my intent. She had simply nodded. I had meant it as an assessment. I think now that she heard something truer in it than that. The rescue teams came through the far door at the 3-hour mark, and the chamber filled with sound and light and organized emergency. Her honor guard, those who had survived and spent the interval in some form of collective shame, moved to take over. One put his hand on my shoulder. I did not move, I said. "The leg is packed and splinted. You move her wrong and the packing shifts. I stay with her until a qualified medic takes the transfer." My voice was even. It is always even now. That is perhaps the most useful thing the fire took from me. Whatever used to make me raise it. The guard looked at the Queen. "His name is Rael Connor," she said. The chamber was loud and her voice cut through it cleanly, the way a blade cuts, rather than the way a shout does. "He has been with me for 3 hours, he stays." The guard stepped back. I supervised the transfer and stayed until the station's trauma medic arrived. And I could give a proper handover. When the medic said she had it from here, I stepped back. The correct thing was to leave. The transfer was complete. My part was done. "Rael Connor." I stopped. She had turned her head on the litter and was looking at me across the room, past her honor guard, past the medics, across the full width of the ruined chamber. In the restored emergency lighting, her gold amber eyes were clear, and they found mine without searching. "I know your face," she said. In Avec, I was told later by someone who had been translating from the doorway, the phrasing carries specific weight. Tations not. I have seen you. The literal construction is closer to. I hold your face inside me now. It belongs to my keeping. I stood in the ruined diplomatic annex with dust in my wrappings and blood on my kit bag, and the half-mask still on my face. And the Queen of the Ovic Dominion told me she knew my face. Said it in front of her court. Said it across a room full of people whose job was to remember. I nodded once. "Rest, Your Majesty." I meant all the things a man who has learned to say very little says, when he speaks a simple thing and means a larger one. I have spent years in the passages behind the walls, in the rooms where no one looks at me twice. She looked. That was enough.